Hey, how are you doing, everybody, and welcome back into the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we're going to be taking a look at my 6th edition here of my 2022 NFL mock drafts. We had a little bit of a shake-up to the board last week with the Saints and the Eagles completing a trade and moving around a little bit, so that will be reflected in today's episode. So with that being said, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into the first pick. As you can see up on the screen, I've got the Jags in this scenario taking Aiden Hutchinson, the edge rusher out of Michigan. I believe he's the best player in this draft class. There's a couple other ways they could go, whether you're an Ike Ekwonu fan, someone who wants Evan Neal going first overall, or someone who's vying for a potential trade down. I'm not sure how likely that is in this year's draft. However, again, I do have Aiden Hutchinson as my top player and edge rusher in this draft. And I think he adds a lot to that Jacksonville front seven, can help get after the passer, has a super high motor, and I think would be a great addition to this football team. At number 2, as we've seen as of late, there's a lot of talk about Trayvon Walker, and he's certainly surging up a lot of people's boards. I've got him going second here to the Lions. Obviously, the edge rusher out of the national championship, winning Georgia Bulldogs defense. This is a highly athletic, very versatile defensive lineman that can line up in a wide array of positions on that defensive front. He can either be a walk-up edge, in my opinion. He has the athleticism to do so. I'm not so sure if that's how he would be best suited. I could also see him being a 3-4 defensive end and being someone that can take on a powerful offensive guard or, again, flex out and rush the passer from the tackle position. So there's a lot you can do here. He absolutely crushed the NFL Combine. And as of now, based off of what we're hearing, I think that he's moved ahead of Kayvon Thibodeau in terms of edge rushers here at the number 2 position on the board. At number 3, I've got the Houston Texans taking Evan Neal, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. Neal is my number 1 tackle in this draft class. I really like him and Ike Ekwonu, but I think he's the one that goes here at number 3 to the Texans. I've had Kyle Hamilton mocked here in previous episodes. However, the report right now is that he's sliding down boards. I imagine that's because of his disappointing 40-yard combine testing. And I think that the Texans could use another stalwart tackle. We don't know about the long-term availability or not availability, but the long-term presence of Laramie Tunsil on this team. He is yet to be extended by Houston, so that could potentially fill a need there for the Texans. Or you could have 2 bookend tackles protecting Davis Mills, your developmental quarterback. At number 4 here, I've got the Jets taking Sauce Gardner out of the University of Cincinnati. You're getting a big, physical, long corner here that I think could very well be the top corner in this draft class. Now, I do have my critiques of him, in particular his over-physicality at times. I think he'll draw some penalties at the next level. But the Jets could use help in the secondary. They need someone that's a playmaker. And in college, he didn't allow a single touchdown. Teams did not want to throw the football his direction because of the ability he had to be a disruptor. So I think at number 4, this seems a bit high to be taking a defensive back off the board. However, I think that the track record in college warrants this pick, and potentially having someone who can lock down an entire side of the field would be a very valuable asset for the Jets here at 4. At number 5, we've got the Giants taking Ike Ekwonu out of NC State. This is my second best tackle in this class. Very solid pass protector, but an even better run blocker. The Giants need someone that can push and create holes for Saquon Barkley to run through. Running off tackle would be a huge boost to this run game. The fact that you can get an explosive athlete like Barkley out in space. He has been rumored to be in some trade talks as of late, but I think that if you can improve this offense, get Daniel Jones some pieces to help this thing kind of stabilize a little bit. You've already got Andrew Thomas on the left side. He's been a reliable starter. I think you can start to work with some pieces here. So Ike Ekwonu, again, adding pass protection and an ability to create openings in the run game. That would be a huge addition there. At number 6, I got Kenny Pickett, the quarterback out of Pittsburgh, heading to the Carolina Panthers. Now, I have previously mocked Malik Willis at this spot. However, the reports as of late, the talk I've heard in the NFL media has been that the Panthers are looking more towards Kenny Pickett than they are Malik Willis. And the simple reason for that is, well, myself personally, I'm mock drafting what I think will happen. In addition to my own personal beliefs about players, my own personal evaluations, but some things that you hear are just, you have to take them and weigh them more heavily than others. And the fact that we're hearing from multiple media outlets right now that the Panthers are more interested in Kenny Pickett is a bit telling to me. Obviously, this could be smoke and mirrors, but there is the connection between Matt Rule and Kenny Pickett, who at one point in time was committed to play football at the University of Temple, which is where obviously Coach Rule came from at one point, and then obviously has made his way to the NFL. So you're getting a more NFL-ready product in Kenny Pickett than you would be with obviously more likely a higher ceiling player in Malik Willis, a guy who's mobile and can play make on the run. But Kenny Pickett's going to come in here, potentially stabilize this offense, and I think have a better shot to get things together day one. You've had dysfunction at this position since Cam Newton exited his prime, and this is obviously something that's huge for Matt Rule's job going forward, as he's a bit, his seat is getting warm, let's just say that. At number 7, I've got the Giants with their second pick here in the top 10, taking Kayvon Thibodeau, someone who I still think is an excellent player. But again, the media has given off the impression that his stock is down right now. There's some concerns about his commitment to football. Personally, I think those concerns are a bit silly. When I hear him speak, he sounds like a very intelligent individual and someone who has a great deal of respect for the opportunity that football has given him and a commitment to play and be the best that he can be. So I'm not sure where those rumors are coming from. If I haven't seen a quote or something that has given off that impression, I know he has disappeared in a few games here and there on film against teams that he should have dominated, but this is still a premier level athlete on the outside of a defense. I don't think he's going to be your Von Miller per se or a Khalil Mack level pass rusher at the peaks of their NFL careers, but this is someone who could be a perennial double-digit sack player, and someone who's very good against the run as well. So I think the Giants would get an absolute gem here at number 7, and someone who's a really complete player, can add a lot of versatility to that front 7 in New York. So at number 8 here, I've got Malik Willis. The Liberty jerseys look pretty good there with that Falcons logo in the background. I've got them taking their franchise quarterback of the future, Malik Willis, here at number 8 now. I think it's very possible that a team trades up for Willis. I think that he has the highest upside of any of the quarterbacks in this draft because of his athleticism, that the big arm that he has, the ability to push the ball downfield. The one concern that I have, and I've talked with some people about this, about Malik Willis or any rookie quarterback heading to Atlanta today, would be the fact that he just doesn't have, or whoever this rookie quarterback could be, doesn't have much to work with. This is a very talent-depleted roster, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. You've got some nice young pieces on defense, but offensively it's Kyle Pitts, a weak offensive line, and really no one in your receiving core. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Atlanta trade down, try and acquire multiple picks, and throw multiple darts at the board, try and get multiple starters in the early rounds of this draft. But if Malik Willis is here, I certainly think you're better off taking Malik Willis, a potential franchise quarterback, than you are rolling with Marcus Mariota as your top QB on the roster for next season. I think that wouldn't end out too well. So the Falcons get their franchise quarterback here at number 8. At number 9, I've got one of my favorite defensive backs in this draft class, Trent McDuffie, out of the University of Washington, heading to the Seattle Seahawks. I think he would fit fantastically into the system. One of my favorite corners, again, fantastic technique, rarely gets out of phase. And his tape is phenomenal. He is someone who, even if he gets out of phase, can recover very quickly. He's very smooth and fluid, and he can open his hips and stick with receivers out of their break very, very cleanly. So I think he has the potential to be possibly one of the top 2 best corners in this draft class, and I think that there's a very solid chance that he could see himself or hear his name go off the board prior to the likes of someone like a Derek Stingley, perhaps, who is another highly touted corner in this class, but I think that the Seahawks could really use a difference maker in the back end. At number 10, I've got the Jets taking Garrett Wilson, my top receiver in this draft class, someone I absolutely love. I think he's a fantastic player, a fantastic athlete, and an elite route runner, someone that's going to be a difference maker day one for whatever team he goes to. And with all of the rumors we've heard about the Jets shopping around that number 10 draft pick for a potential franchise wide receiver 1, if you will, it makes sense that they would try and draft one here with this high number 10 overall selection. I love Elijah Moore. I think Corey Davis is a fantastic piece. I apologize if you can hear those loud cars in the background. Garrett Wilson, again, is a fantastic piece. Sorry, I forgot what I was saying there. And is someone who I think could walk in here and potentially be the cherry on top to what I think is a nice wide receiver core right now. Has some talented young pieces. Again, Corey Davis and Elijah Moore. But he could be that true dominant alpha player here to really help bring Zach Wilson's game to the next level. You've done some work to address the offensive line in previous drafts, and now it's time to build that weapons core around him and surround him with a nucleus of young players that can help him develop and obviously peak at the same time as him and hopefully give you a chance to compete with Josh Allen in that division down the road. At number 11, we've got Kyle Hamilton falling all the way down to number 11 to the Washington Commanders. This is the lowest I've had him go off the board to this point. Someone I absolutely love as a player. Yes, his combine was disappointing. I think that we were hoping for some astronomical 4.4 40 times to see him absolutely fly down the runway and just crush it. But that didn't happen. He ran a 4.62, I believe, was the official time. And for a guy who's 6'4", 200 plus pounds, I mean, his tape speaks for itself. This is still an incredibly dynamic player. The Commanders are in need of some help in the secondary. They do have Cam Curl, who was a steal, a late-round draft pick a couple years back. But they did let Landon Collins walk this year. Bobby McCain is still in-house. He's a nice player, but the versatility of a Kyle Hamilton to have a body that can fly around the field, pick players off over the top of the defense, be a blitzer off the edge as a versatile chess piece is too valuable. And there's been a lot of talk about him falling out of the top 10 here the last couple of weeks. So that's why I reflected that here in today's mock draft. Again, everything you hear shouldn't necessarily be taken as fact. A lot of it can be smoke and mirrors. Think back to last season with Mac Jones, number 3 overall, being basically what you heard everywhere for like a month straight. So there is still a very real chance that Kyle Hamilton is a top 10 pick on draft day, but it's not a guarantee with what we're hearing right now. The Vikings at 12 here, I got them taking the next best defensive back available, that being Derek Stingley out of LSU. Hasn't been the same player all 3 years of his career at LSU, but still a fantastic player. His freshman season, someone who put on the absolute clamps. We've seen awesome tape of him from practice guarding Jamar Chase. And this kid's a gamer. I think that he can go out there and he's got all the tools to be a shutdown number one corner for a team, and that is certainly the position of greatest need, in my opinion, for the Minnesota Vikings. Coming from a Green Bay Packer fan, I watched them get picked apart in the secondary all season long last year, despite having Patrick Peterson, and they've had some troubles with draft picks at the position in years past. So Derek Stingley, the best name available on the board. I think Trent McDuffie would be a slightly better fit here, but we've got him gone at number 9 to the Seahawks. At number 13, I've got Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas, heading to the Houston Texans. Davis Mills is a developmental quarterback. This is not a player who you can expect to carry the weight of the franchise on his back. You need to get him some help. You re-signed Brandon Cooks. He'll be in the house for the next 3 seasons after signing a 2-year extension on top of the contract he already had for this year. Again, go get Treylon Burks. You've got some other nice young names, Nico Collins and Brevin Jordan from last year's draft class. Treylon Burks is a guy who you can get the ball out to in space, have him catch the ball near the line of scrimmage and take off after that and get you some yards after the catch. I think that would be a big asset to a team that also struggles to have a consistent run game. So Treylon Burks at 13, I think, would be of large benefit to the Texans. Jordan Davis at number 14 here. This is an aging defensive line in Baltimore between Derek Wolfe, Michael Pierce, and you've also got Calais Campbell resigned for what are likely to be the final 2 seasons of his NFL career. You need some youth in that interior. This is a guy who is an immovable object in the run game. Hasn't played a ton of snaps, but his combine was absolutely insane for a player of his size. Nearly 6'7" and 340 plus pounds. Dude's an absolute beast, and I would love to see what he could do in that Ravens defensive system. Drake London at 15 here. This has been a consistent selection for me here on the channel with a larger receiver. We've had them have success in the past with the Philadelphia Eagles organization. Obviously, you've had some changes in leadership and direction of that organization, but I think you need more playmakers for Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's a guy who can get the job done and take you the distance by himself. So you've got a really nice piece in Devontae Smith, more of a route runner, more of a true and pure wide receiver. Drake London's a guy who can go out there and be a beast in the 50-50 game, win a lot of red zone contested catches, and potentially give an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to throw the football downfield more. Not super accurate, doesn't have the biggest arm in the world per se. But if you give a guy who's almost 6'5" an opportunity to go up and win a contested ball against a 5'10", to 6 foot tall corner, he's going to come down with the ball more often than not. You've seen that last year with Mike Williams winning a lot of jump balls for the Chargers, and some of that athleticism and ability to be a big playmaker down the field. At 16 here, I've got the Saints. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting. So the Eagles had back-to-back picks and then a third selection shortly after that. The Saints now hold the 16th overall pick, formerly of the Eagles. At 16, I've got them taking Chris Olave. You know they like their Ohio State wide receivers with Michael Thomas in-house as well. And I think that Olave would add a new dimension to this team, something that we haven't seen this roster be able to provide, especially last year with the underwhelming names that were out there. You get a lot of quickness and speed here, the ability to push the ball down the field, get Jameis Winston another option that can help him out deep down the field in the passing game and open things up to another dimension that you don't currently have. You've got a lot of possession receivers on the team right now. Traquan Smith is more of a 3 than a 2 if you ask me. And we've just seen that this team doesn't really have a force that can push the ball downfield and create separation downfield. And I think Olave, really fast out of his breaks again, super smooth route runner, and could be that force to be able to run down the seams of an NFL defense. Trevor Penning has been the pick here for a few mock drafts now for me at number 17 to the Chargers. A mauler in the run game, someone who could really add a lot to this unit. And with a team that's got a very strong roster, not too many holes across the board here for them. And I would say another one of them would be interior defensive tackle. Jordan Davis is off the board. I think Trevor Penning is a perfect fit here. Can help protect Justin Herbert a little bit and, again, add to the run game as a mauler and someone who is a difference maker in creating gaps for that run game. Philly here at number 18, their second pick. So instead of having 3 picks, they now have 2 both this season and next. I've got the Eagles taking Devontae Wyatt, another interior defensive lineman from Georgia. That defense was absolutely stacked, completely loaded from top to bottom. And Devontae Wyatt's name wasn't really known that much until the combine and seeing some of the things that he was able to produce, watching his tape back in hindsight. This guy can be a difference maker, and you've only got Fletcher Cox on a 1-year deal. It looks like you're going to need to address that interior defensive line position sooner rather than later, and now having, getting some youth, another pocket-pushing D lineman who can rush the passer and put pressure on the quarterback. I think it's a great transitional player who you can go to having an all-pro in Fletcher Cox to a potential future all-pro in Devontae Wyatt with his athleticism. At number 19 here, the Saints' second round 1 pick, I've got them taking Charles Cross. The absence of having a player like Teron Armstead is going to be a big deal for this football team. And Charles Cross, I think, on film has shown me fantastic feet and quickness, ability to get off the ball and protect the passer. That's exactly what you're going to need him to do. You've got Ryan Ramczyk playing the right side. Charles Cross would be a very nice help to get at that left tackle position for Jameis Winston. Again, putting pieces around him to truly figure out, is he a bridge quarterback, or is this a player who can carry the franchise for the foreseeable future? At number 20 at quarterback, I absolutely love one of my favorites, if not my favorite in this entire class, Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. I have loved this guy since the very beginning of the pre-draft scouting process, before the combine, before the great numbers. I loved his film. I love his throwing motion. I love his poise in the pocket. He does have underrated athleticism, and we saw that shine through at the combine with his fantastic broad jump numbers, a faster 40-yard dash than Josh Allen, Mahomes, Rodgers, and Herbert. And I think he's got all the tools. It's going to depend how much draft capital gets invested into him right away in terms of how quick we're going to see him on the field and how good the situation is going to be for him to land into. But I think there's a lot of potential here. You got great size. Again, a nice arm. Not the biggest arm in the world, not a rocket like Mahomes or Allen or Herbert, but definitely someone to keep your eye on as a under-the-radar franchise quarterback that I think could have a very bright future in the National Football League. At number 21, I've got the New England Patriots taking George Karloftis, the edge out of Purdue. This is that versatile piece that you can really line up as an outside linebacker. Not necessarily someone you want in coverage per se or at all, but this is a guy who can get after the passer, play the run as well, hold his edge or his gap in the run game. I think he is definitely better suited as a 4-3 end than he is anything else, or potentially a 3-4 backer. He'd be a bit undersized to put him in the interior of a 3-4 end position, but someone who could be used again in a multitude of ways. Isn't the best overall raw athlete, but someone who he plays his position very, very well. I think that Bill Belichick would have obviously a very fun time using him, and we see him bring out the best in each of his defensive players, using them basically in the role that fits their skill set perfectly. So you get a player like Karloftis, I think you can use him in a multitude of ways again. And this Patriots team needs some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. They've lost a lot of names this offseason, and they need to retool that team for a 2022 push with Mac Jones. At number 22, I've got Jameson Williams headed to the Green Bay Packers here. They need to address that wide receiver position. We already know that Davante Adams no longer in-house. It's a big deal for this team. Williams coming off an ACL, I think will fall down the board slightly. I still think he is a day one pick. However, you do get the opportunity to have a player who post-injury and after he's 100% rehabbed from that could be a special field stretching asset for a player like an Aaron Rodgers, who again really needs a number one target in that offense. At number 23, I've got the Cardinals sticking with Kenyon Green here out of A&M. This is a plug-and-play interior offensive lineman, can help James Conner in that run game and hopefully help protect the interior pass rush for Kyler Murray, who has been a bit frail, let's be honest, the last couple of seasons getting nicked up throughout the season. So Kenyon Green, again, adding protection for Kyler Murray and a boost in the run game. Tyler Linderbaum, I'm sticking with this pick from last time for the Dallas Cowboys. They need more offensive line juice. You've got future Hall of Famers on the offensive line still, no doubt, and at least having Tyron Smith at the left tackle position, but he's injured more and more frequently. Zach Martin as well, injured more and more often. Tyler Biadasz is someone who has gotten exposed at times on tape with his inability to stand up to pass rush from the top NFL interior linemen. And Linderbaum has been the top-rated center in college football the last 2 seasons in a row. I think this would be a huge pickup. Give Dallas some depth at offensive line. And when those injuries happen, give you the ability to shuffle around the starters and hopefully, be able to still have a balanced offensive game plan. At number 25, we got the Bills taking Kyler Gordon, defensive back out of Washington, DBU, or at least one of the top universities for pumping out defensive back products. And I think Kyler Gordon, despite being the second best player in the draft from Washington in the secondary, is still someone who could add a lot here. I think that he's got fantastic coverage ability to be an outside corner. They do have Trey White coming off an ACL, but that number 2 position is certainly still up for grabs. You do have Teron Johnson, who's a very good slot cornerback, but again, I think that there is help that is needed, and this position could be addressed for that second boundary cornerback position. I think Kyler Gordon would be a good fit here for the Bills. At 26, I've got the Tennessee Titans sticking with Zion Johnson here, guard from Boston College. You got to have a consistent push and be able to move people out of the way, get Derrick Henry to the second and third levels of that defense and bullying over those smaller defenders, linebackers, safeties, corners. Obviously, a defensive lineman can get a grasp on him and drag him down, but if you're creating holes and getting a push up front, winning the line of scrimmage, it's going to be really hard to stop Henry after that point. Dax Hill, another pick I'm sticking with here for the Buccaneers. I really like the fit here. I think if you draft Dax Hill, you can pair him with Antoine Winfield in the back end, have a really young and youthful secondary, and then Logan Ryan, who the team just brought on, they can kick him down and have him play that nickel position for the team. He's a really, really good slot corner, did that for the Pats and the Titans for a number of years. Then he went and played safety in New York because the free agent pool for nickel corners is really dry for whatever reason, although it's one of the most important positions in football. But I think Dax Hill would add a lot of depth here and versatility to that Tampa Bay secondary. George Pickens, another receiver who's a fringe round 1 pick. I love here going at the end of the first round for the Packers. Super athletic, 6'3", 200 pounds, can fly down the field. Needs to develop his underneath game a little bit, or at least wasn't used a ton in that fashion in college, but someone who's really, really talented, wants to mold his game after Davante Adams. How fitting to bring him in-house after having his departure this offseason. Andrew Booth at number 29 here, my next best corner off the board. Out of the University of Clemson, the Chiefs, they are in a loaded division, weapons left and right. And to be frank, the Chiefs do not have a shutdown number 1 corner. Now, I don't think that Andrew Booth is going to be a premier defensive back on the secondary, but this is someone who can certainly do his job, patch up the back end, and give you some help. Now, again, you don't necessarily need to have a number 1 shutdown, lockup corner on your team, but you need to have guys who are consistent, who don't get beat every play. And when you're guarding the Davante Adams, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Renfrows of the world, the Jerry Judys, the Cortland Suttons, the Tim Patricks, you got to have guys, and a lot of them, that can cover, because you've got guys lining up all over the field in different positions. Darren Waller, Travis Kelce. Well, Travis Kelce plays for the Chiefs, but you've got Darren Waller at tight end. I guess Noah Fant technically is not in-house anymore, but you've still got Alberto, who's a decent tight end. I believe the Chargers, and now obviously corners aren't going to be matching up against tight ends that frequently. You're going to have more so safeties and linebackers filling that role. But the point is, there is a heinous amount of weapons in the AFC West. You need to be able to have the manpower and the numbers to cover those players. And Andrew Booth, again, is a very solid corner who I think can contribute to that cause. And with their second pick here, I got them taking Christian Watson, the wideout out of North Dakota State, the obviously college of Carson Wentz and Trey Lance last season, the number 3 overall pick to the 49ers. This is a big man, dominated at the Senior Bowl, 6'4", almost 6'5", I believe, 200-plus pounds. He's actually quite the physical player as well, can fly down the field. He's not like a twig like Marquez Valdes-Scantling for Kansas City, who they just brought in from Green Bay. This guy can do more. He's more dynamic than a Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I don't know why I didn't just say MVS. I'm sure a large majority of you would have known who I'm talking about, but you're getting yourself a name that can fly down the field, and Mahomes can certainly get him the ball deep downfield, fit the ball in between zone coverage, and make some big splash plays. So I think it's almost perfect here. Watson's a fringe round 1 talent, and for a team that's picking at the end of the first round, has multiple picks. If he's the best wide receiver on the board, I wouldn't be shocked to see his name called. I think he'd be a fantastic fit again with Mahomes, and if he continues to develop as a route runner, could be a very, very tough cover for anyone in the NFL here as he moves to the next level. Devin Lloyd, again, slips down to the number 31 pick for me to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that, their roster is a lot better than we gave them credit for last offseason, and they don't have a terribly large amount of holes they addressed by signing Lyle Collins, the right tackle position for that team, signed some interior linemen as well, in particular the excelling guard from Tampa Bay. The defense is a lot better than I gave them credit for as well. Between having guys like Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, they've got themselves a decent pass rush. I think Larry Ogunjobi actually left at free agency, but point being, this team, they've got some solid players in the back end as well. I think that their biggest weakness is an inside linebacker position. I think Jermaine Pratt might be one of the weaker links on this team. Certainly Eli Apple would be as well, but they brought him back on a 1-year deal. So I think that Devin Lloyd, the best player available, definitely a steal falling this far in the draft, a player whose tape and play speed is a lot better than the combine testing he had, would still be a steal at this point in the draft. Very long player, infrequently misses tackles, meaning that he is often a lock to get the player on the ground. And I think would be a great fit here and a great value draft for a team that wildly exceeded expectations last season, but again has a much better roster than we gave the credit for a year ago. And then number 32 here, I've got Matt Corral, a developmental quarterback. In my opinion, if I was a team, I would not want to throw him into the fire day one. He could certainly go higher than this. I think his draft stock could be greater than the 32nd overall pick, but my personal feelings about Desmond Ridder, hearing his name a lot more come up in the media, someone who is, quote, crushing the draft process is what I've heard from a variety of different outlets, is I think Matt Corral, or Matt Corral, however you say it, and then Sam Howell. I think those are the two quarterbacks, and Carson Strong are names that could fall to the end of round one or out of round one. Certainly not all those names will go in round one. I'd be shocked to see each of those players be drafted on the first night. So the Lions get a developmental quarterback here, someone who can play make, has shown the ability to use a healthy amount of athleticism to get outside the pocket, make throws downfield. Again, no one in this draft has a Mahomes or a Herbert arm, but there are some really nice skill sets, and we should still credit the players for bringing that to the table. And the fact that you've still got Jared Goff, who is a very solid quarterback at this point in time for a rebuilding team, someone who allows the Lions to have virtually no pressure to have to throw Matt Corral out there before he's ready, gives you, again, a lot of opportunity to grow him and develop him as a QB, get his instincts in check, make sure that he knows the system like the back of his hand, and really set him up to have success when he takes over the reins. So if the Lions do draft a developmental quarterback with the last pick in the first round, I think that would be a really strong way to go about things. And that concludes today's mock draft. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, drop down, make sure to leave it with a like and click that subscribe button if you're new around here, especially if you guys like fantasy football. I'll be posting at least 2 fantasy videos per week here. And once we get about to June, I'll be posting videos every single day. So I can't wait to get there. I love making videos for you guys. I've been absent for a lot of days in the past 2 weeks here since I've been sick. I'm still trying to get over things. So hopefully I didn't sound like too nasally or stuffed up for you guys, but I apologize about that. I'm grinding through things here. Make sure to go check me out on Twitter as well and our social medias. The links to those are in the description of today's episode. And thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. I appreciate the heck out of you guys. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.